some sort of a budget committee together to help educate folks on what we can and can't do. Because so many things that we do are mandated, and so many things have special funds that are kind of crazy. But like your food, that's a whole separate budget that flows through, and that one is something we just don't touch, nor do we want to touch it, so there's all these mandated things that are out there. Some of them are unfunded, and yet we legally have to do it. So I know sometimes our budget seems really strange, and keep coming to the meetings, and you'll learn more, and maybe can think outside the box and help us out, because that would be wonderful, because there's some very frustrating things that we're mandated that we have to do, and unfortunately it affects things that we don't want to do.
Any other comments on this one? This is not a voting item tonight. Okay, I need to call a break right now, and let's make it 10 minutes. All right.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was not on. We're in recess at 9:14. 7.2, I'm guessing?
Yep.
7.2. This is a public hearing of the 2024-25 balances in excess of minimum reserve requirements, a first reading. Mr. Little, you want to introduce, and I'll open the public hearing?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, this is pursuant to Ed Code Section 42127A2B. It's the first reading, as you said, to those balances in the general fund reserves that are in excess of the 2% required.
Okay, then, I will open the public hearing at 9:31. Clerk Couvret, any
No, there
public
are not.
speakers? No, okay. I'm going to close this at 9:32. And turn it back over to you, Mr. Little.
Yeah, and there was a slide in the slideshow that I think Director Ramiro spoke with, too, right? And it's also the backup document to the green sheet, just delineating the fact that in next year's budget, we will have a total ending fund balance, if it's approved, of $50.5 million. The minimum reserve requirement is about $10.9 million. That leaves us with $39.6 million. And then we mentioned right below there that 38.9 of that is assigned for budget stabilization. And the other 741,000 is from Fund 17, and that supports district-wide technology, as we've been doing for many years now. So as if the numbers change a little bit, next time these numbers will change a little bit, but that's the general direction.
Any questions for Mr. Little on this item? It is a first reading, so voting on this at the next meeting, not this one. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Little. 8.1 is another public hearing for the Poway Unified School District Local Control and Accountability Plan, our LCAP for 2024 to 2027, and the LCAP annual update for 2023-2024, a first reading. Ms. Peterson, maybe open it, and then I'll open a public hearing again.
Thank you. This is an annual report, just as you said, for the annual LCAP update for 23-24, as well as a presentation for the 24-27 new LCAP.
Thank you very much. And at 9:33, I will open the public hearing.
No, there are not.
Thank you, Clerk Couvret. At 9:33, I will close the public hearing and turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Madam President. So tonight, we will provide a presentation on our LCAP budget, goals, actions, and services as part of the first reading of the new 24 through 27 Local Control Accountability Plan, or LCAP. And I would like to thank Mercedes Hubschmidt, Ava Peters, Dave Lemaster, Jennifer Cook, our teams in finance, IT, and our assessment team for their collaborative efforts to provide an update and develop this new plan. It's quite intensive and extensive, and we couldn't do it without all of those departments working together. That said, I will now turn it over to Director Ramiro, Director Hubschmidt, and Executive Director Lemaster for the presentation.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you, Board President O'Connor, Radcliffe, Board and Cabinet members. We are excited to share with you the 2024-2027 LCAP updated three-year plan. I would also like to thank our staff and community for their feedback, as it has helped shape the goals and actions within the LCAP. Embedded within the new three-year LCAP is the 2023-24 annual update, which has been provided within the draft of the 24-27 LCAP to the Board of Education and is accessible to the public. The presentation tonight will share a few of the metrics from the annual update, as well as focus on the goals, actions, and services that are part of the 2024-27 LCAP. Next slide, please. The Poway Unified School District LCAP plan includes three specific goals which are similar to the goals in the previous LCAP. Goal 1, safe and inclusive learning environments. Goal 2, improving systems, structures, and programs that lead to increased student achievement and learning opportunities for all. And Goal 3, foster and maintain positive relationships with parents and the community. Each of these areas will be elaborated on this presentation. The purpose of the LCAP is to provide specific actions and services based on identified needs, along with allocating supplemental resources to support those identified actions and services. Before we jump into the actions and services, Executive Director of Business Support Services, Joy Romero, will provide us with a budget overview. Next slide, please.
Thank you. So as part of the LCAP report, the district is required to develop and include the budget overview for parents to outline the district's revenues and expenditures for the LCAP budget year 2024-2025. On this slide, you have seen this earlier in the budget presentation, the same information, the district's combined general fund projected revenues of 506.2 million. And here I just want to highlight that out of the almost 400 total LCFF funds, 15.4 million is generated by supplemental grant, and this is for the enrollment of our high-needs students. And the remaining 384.6 million is the base grant and other add-ons embedded in the LCFF. Next slide. Same information, total projected expenditures that we shared earlier in the budget presentation, total of 541.6 million is the district's combined general fund expenditures. Next slide, please. On this slide, we just want to show that 34.7 million of the district's total budgeted expenditures are attached to the actions and services in the local control accountability plan. And this slide outlines the breakdown of the funding sources used to fund the LCAP budget. The total supplemental funding of 15.4 million is all tied to the actions and services in the LCAP. Next slide, please. And then on this slide, we want to highlight that out of the 34.7 million LCAP budget, 25 million is planned to be spent towards meeting the requirement to improve or increase the services to our high-needs students. And again, of this amount, 15.4 million is the funding we get for the supplemental grant. Thank you.
Thank you for that update. Next slide, please. Thank you. It is important to highlight some changes that have been made by the state regarding the LCAP goals and as far as actions and services, how they're identified, metrics established, and funding allocated. The state has required that districts focus attention and resources on specific areas related to performance and local indicators on the California dashboard. There are 4 areas where specific actions and services must be included in the LCAP. Those include actions supported by LCFF supplemental funding, actions that address any district and or school level and or student group in the red performance tier, actions that address long-term English learners or LTELs, and actions that address the state priorities. Next slide. So these are our 3 LCAP goals, and we're going to go through each of them. Next slide, please. Since it's so late, we're not going to read each one of the goals, but you can see goal 1 here is referring to safe and inclusive learning environments. Next slide, please. So our first goal does focus on creating those safe and inclusive learning environments where students feel safe, valued, and heard in order to become world-class learners. Next slide, please. Our metrics that we're using include but are not limited to attendance, dropout rates, and suspension rates. As you can see, our attendance baseline in 2019-20 was at 96.5%. However, it has dropped to 93.4%. Our year 3 goal is to get back to where things were prior to 2020. The high school dropout rate has decreased slightly. However, we have set a goal to reduce it by 1 percentage point over the next 3 years. The suspension rate for Poway Unified has gone up 0.5% since 2020, so the goal is to reduce it to a 0.75 by 2027. These are just a few of the metrics that we are using to measure progress. Director Hubschmidt will explain what actions and services we have identified to address these areas. Next slide, please.
Right, thank you. So we've all heard the necessity for additional social emotional support. So here in Goal 1, those actions supporting safe and inclusive learning environments include counseling support through coordinated means in support of our students. This collaboration includes intervention counselors and the Mending Matters social workers at the secondary level, the support of student support services staff, district-wide, and a deepened focus on systemic multi-tiered systems of support, or MTSS. Goal 1 also continues the support of our bilingual Caring Connections counselor who provides critical social-emotional support to our families district-wide through one-on-one family meetings and the coordination of our Caring Connections parent education. Caring Connections also provides wraparound supports for our students who are considered or identified as unduplicated, including those students who are in foster care and those experiencing homelessness. As part of the educational community, we know how important belonging is. We've heard even earlier tonight about some of our speakers talking about the importance of belonging, to feel safe and included at our schools. This inclusivity is nurtured through actions such as inclusive practices, which engages students by removing barriers and acknowledging the whole child. This is also achieved by providing opportunities through science, technology, engineering, art, and math as our students discover their academic passions. These actions are so important as we strive to fulfill our vision of creating a culture and conditions to empower our world-class learners. And finally, for this goal, we recognize that some students may face challenges with accessing their educational experiences and with attendance and engagement. As we examined a few of our metrics on the previous slides, this goal looks to provide support in addressing chronic absenteeism through a strategic plan developed through the collaboration between Learning Support Services, Student Support Services, and the Office of Attendance and Discipline. Further, at the site level, ensuring safety and inclusivity includes the utilization of campus supervisors to serve as mentors and another trusted adult on campus for our children. The total for Goal 1 is $20,453,347.
Next slide. Thank you very much. The second goal is around improving systems, structures, and programs that lead to increased student achievement, learning outcomes, creating equitable learning pathways, increasing student success by leveraging inclusive practices, personalized learning, rigorous standards-based thinking opportunities to prepare students to thrive in college and career in life. Next slide, please. Our goal for our LCAP goal number 2 focuses on those increased student achievement and learning opportunities for students by providing staff support, intervention, and creating more access and opportunities for students to reach their potential. Next slide. The metrics used for Goal 2 include graduation rates, English language reclassification, students meeting A to G, and CASP results in language arts and mathematics. Although our graduation rate and the English learner reclassification percentage has not changed in 3 years, we have created goals to improve both graduation by 2% and English learner reclassification by 3%. Students meeting or exceeding standards in English language arts decreased by 1.4%, and in mathematics decreased by 3% since 2019. Goals to increase both have been established to get near, at, or above where students were prior to 2019. Next slide.
So as Executive Director Lemaster mentioned, Goal 2 supports not only student learning, but our adult learners as well. At the elementary level, collaboration time and professional learning provided by site-based professional learning leaders ensures that our learners are able to access standards-aligned materials and provide intervention strategies to address student needs. These efforts are further reflected at the secondary level with the provision of secondary intervention support classes as well as co-teaching, which promotes inclusive educational practices by fostering an environment where students with disabilities can learn alongside their peers in the general education classroom. This goal also highlights several supports that are considered increased or improved for our unduplicated students. These include providing professional learning and integration of standards for English language development, or ELD, as we ensure that our English learners are engaged in learning in their classrooms and their language acquisition and proficiency are supported. As we strive to create and maintain equitable learning pathways, Goal 2 highlights several supports that focus on equity and inclusion. We see actions through the support of impactful programs, such as our award-winning AVID programs, and our focus on ensuring learning in the least restricted environments. In supporting children new to our country, our Family Learning Center serves as a critical resource, in addition to the 8 bilingual parent liaisons who help to remove barriers parents might be facing in supporting their children. Finally, through our career technical education pathways, our students are provided opportunities to explore and learn about careers and skills that support and promote college and career readiness.
Thank you.
For Goal 2, the total funding for Goal 2 is $14,146,521.
Now I can say
Now I
thank
can
you.
say it.
Thank you.
I can-
I was excited to get to Goal 3.
He's very excited.
Goal 3, fostering and maintaining positive relationships with our parents and communities to increase engagement of our parents, businesses, community partners, and that building that shared responsibility and accountability in order to deliver personalized, rich, and rigorous learning experiences. So our Goal 3 focuses on that fostering and maintaining those positive parent-community relationships through two-way communication, transparency, and partnerships. Thanks. So our metrics for Goal 3 include the following areas: numbers of parent events specifically for parents of unduplicated and/or students with exceptional needs, building relationships with families, partnerships for students and seeking input, and parent perceptions related to parent input regarding decisions. For the first metric, there has been an increase in the number of events for parents of unduplicated students and students with exceptional needs since 2020. However, our goal is to increase that by 4% over the next 3 years. The rubric scores for the second metric are based on the local indicators at a 5-point self-reflection scale where a 3 is initial implementation, 4 is full implementation, and 5 is being full implementation and sustainability. As you can see, since 2020, there has been a movement from initial implementation to full implementation in all 3 areas. The goal naturally would be to have more areas in the full implementation range in 3 years. And finally, based on the California Healthy Kids Survey, parents are asked if they feel schools actively seek their input before making important decisions. Although we have improved from the 2020 baseline, there was a decrease from 2021 school year. The California Healthy Kids Survey is only offered every other year, so the goal is to get up to 70% or higher responding yes over the next 3 years. Next slide.
So as you know, the engagement and partnership of our parents has always been a priority for our district. We seek and engage our parents through a variety of ways at both our sites and at the district level. Structures such as thought exchange and parent surveys serve as a means of two-way communication, as do collaborative conversations. For example, parent education offerings sponsored by both through our Community Advisory Committee and through our Caring Connections Center are informed by articulated parent needs. And finally, our district is so grateful for longtime relationships with our community partners who support rich learning experiences accessed by our students. These include on-site learnings as well as partnerships with local colleges such as Palomar College and Cal State San Marcos, who provide wonderful opportunities for our students both during their time in PUSD and after they graduate. We also want to acknowledge actions highlighting our incredible community who volunteer their time as well as donate a variety of supports to address student needs and for our families most at need in Poway Unified. For Goal 3, the total funding allocated is $108,809.
Thank you. So as we began this process, we examined the goals from the previous LCAP and felt that they were still relevant and appropriate to where we were headed as a district. Many of the actions and services have been updated along with the funding to support those actions and services and have shifted to focus on those 4 areas mentioned earlier. So this is our 3 goals. We've gone through each of them, and we are eager to answer any questions that you may have about the Poway Unified School District 2024-27 LCAP plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I saw you trying to rush through it, too. Questions, comments from the board?
So we continue to see, discipline disparity and inability to close the achievement gaps for some of the communities, the student groups that we're targeting with these supplemental funds. What are we planning to do differently in this next 3-year plan that will help us bridge that? Because that seems to just be a persisting problem for us.
So I think there's a couple of different actions and services that are occurring. I think, first of all, I think the ability for us to kind of step back and kind of examine what the practices have been thus far and really looking at, for example, around the chronic absenteeism. What is it that we're going to be doing as far as developing a strategic plan kind of moving forward? We've heard some conversation about the equity and improvement work, as well as working at restorative justice practices. Part of that is also being able to share and inform the filter of staff as well, as far as how do we look at means of correction, and what ways might those have different types of implication, and how do we address them? And so when we talk about the practices being restorative, that's also part of that training.
As a follow-up question, are there similar districts that have managed to close these gaps, and what are, maybe we can look at what they're doing? I don't know that data.
Yeah,
And I'm not expecting an answer right now.
It's a very good question, and it's an area that we need to explore further. I know that we've been working with Jamie Dayhoff and Priscilla Sanchez in the Attendance and Discipline Office to try to find what are some ways that we can respond to student behaviors and in a positive and restorative way, still holding students accountable, and so that they're able to learn, but at the same time, it might not involve, say, a suspension or a missing of class time, which counts as suspension. Whether it's an in-school suspension or they're at home, it's still considered a suspension. And so I think it's important to be able to educate and make sure that schools know that there are resources out there that we can use to address behaviors that might not necessarily require a suspension. To your question, it's a valid point. What are some other schools doing that have been able to close that achievement gap? And so that's an area for us to look at.
I want to piggyback on Darshana's question. So during Counselor Day, I sat at a table with a lot of elementary school counselors, and I was shocked by the amount of disciplinary when they were talking about how many suspensions and write-ups that their students had had, and they were proud, in not that they shouldn't have been, but they were excited about how they had lowered it by the third trimester. They were still getting a lot of suspensions, but they had lowered the amount. And I was just shocked by the amount their lowered number was. And so I just could not fathom what would it take, because I know what it takes to get a middle schooler or a high schooler to the point of suspension. And you're talking an elementary schooler getting suspended. So they didn't, when I asked the question, I'm like, are you talking to the teachers? And they said, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, they're the ones doing the write-ups, so maybe somebody needs to be looking at that. Is that being looked at?
So we are engaging with our counselors to find out what are some ways that we can address the behaviors and support them. A large component of the LCAP is counseling services. And so we actually had a counseling meeting here a week ago, and we were in presenting the LCAP goals and also talking with them about how they can work with their principals and administrators to try to mitigate some of these situations from happening before they escalate to that point. And so what the counselors want to be involved in is how can we be proactive in terms of addressing some of these rising behaviors so that they're not getting to that point to where now we're having to suspend and things like that. So it's an ongoing conversation. I don't have like a specific, this is like the answer to it, but the counselors are completely vested in the suspensions, the chronic absenteeism, and the A to G work and making sure students are being successful and being supported along the way. So it is a huge priority, and we wanted to maintain the counseling services that we currently have because we know these are big issues, and they're not just unique to Poway Unified, but they're areas that we're very focused on.
And I think you'll see some specific information when our SPSAs come up in August, because our SPSAs are also focused on students at the specific school sites who fall within the red, the yellow, the orange. So while this is a broad district-wide lens, we'll really get down to a more granular level as school sites are reporting on that. And I think you'll see a nice connection when we bring those forward in August. Thank you.
A little bit more on Dr. Patel's comment too. You have very ambitious goals. I look at it kind of flat for 3 years, and all of a sudden we're going to improve it by 3%. Or do you think we're being overly optimistic? I mean, I'd love it if we could do that, but that's a significant change when we've been kind of flat without a whole trust of here's what we're doing, here's what we're doing, here's what we're doing differently.
I feel like overall, when we kind of look at, when we're looking at developing the goals and looking at community feedback and all the different pieces, I think we're really looking at, okay, let's take a step back and see what we have been doing. And I think we always feel like we definitely want to aim for those goals, but I think we also, and we don't want to keep saying, well, we're coming out of COVID, we're coming out of COVID, we're coming out of COVID, but I think there's also the recognition, not just here in this district, but just statewide, that there's incrementally, there are still some kind of like that gray area where folks have come out. There's some certain behaviors that we start seeing that maybe weren't existent previously for different types of trauma that exists. As a former counselor, I will tell you that that's also part of what you see in the training, is that we're looking at something that has been traumatic as a lot of times people think trauma may be something that's maybe when we say they identify, they may find something that's different and very specific, for example, like a divorce or a death. But the other part of it, honestly, too, is when we look at the idea of a pandemic, that's a pretty traumatic thing to come out of as well. So my point with that is that we recognize that those pieces will happen, and I think we're giving the time and intention. Right now, I'm kind of staying with the certain goals, really kind of going deeper with some of the actions and services to be able to really be attentive to those works. So to your question, is it ambitious? I think we can do it. I do. I think they're attainable.
I would also like to comment that there is another direct link between the work with our racial equity and inclusion plan and that update specifically focused on our historically underserved students, which in many of the categories are the students that are falling within that red, yellow, orange on our dashboard. So the connection, intentional connection between the site SPSAs, our LCAP, and our racial equity and inclusion plan, I think is really a multi-pronged approach to us making some respectable gains over the next 3 years.
Kind of an impact do high school seniors, maybe in their second semester, like have an impact on absenteeism and ADA? I finished school.
Painted a tile.
I don't know that I have the data off the top of my head. We'd have to look at that, but it would be something that we would want to look at in terms of how does that factor into ADA, as we were sharing earlier, the impact of students not coming to school and that impact fiscally on the school district. And we'd have to look at what does that look like through the lens of chronic absenteeism. Technically, if you've missed 18% or 10% of the year, which is 18 days out of 180 school days, then you're considered chronically absent. So we're able to quickly identify in any of our schools who those students are who are at or near chronic absenteeism. And so being able to check in with students and making sure that they're coming to school and they're aware of the importance of being on campus is part of the goal for this coming next 3-year cycle. But to your point, we'd have to look at those trends, and we can run that to see towards those like trimester 3, quarter 4, end of year periods. Do we see more or increased chronic absenteeism or just absences in general?
Because I think a lot of that absenteeism also comes out of like a lack of awareness that, you know, them being chronically absent or absent a lot is really having like a dire impact on people other than them. Yeah. And maybe like if there are ways that we can maybe like engage like seniors. I mean, I know it's really hard to go to school at the end, but for a lot of people, but if there's a way we can, you know, engage them or at least make them aware about the impact that they might be having. Absolutely.
And for chronic absenteeism, just to clarify, that counts as absent, even excused absences.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. So even if your parents are calling
Correct.
in the student, it still counts towards that.
Correct. Thank you for that clarification.
So my question, I don't know if it directly relates to our LCAP, but this year I recently learned the term super senior. And I didn't realize that my neighbor's child is considered a super senior. Do we have very many of those? And are those students, are their numbers reflected here? Are we still working on them to help them get across that finish line to get their diploma? Fifth years?
Correct.
Fifth years,
Yeah, so
yes.
it's the fifth-year senior. So do you want to speak to that? Or?
So those who are granted fifth-year senior status could be perhaps our students with disabilities may qualify for the additional year, our children who are in foster care and are homeless or homeless can also qualify for the fifth year. They're considered part of the typically cohort data. So they actually do get that additional year to finish up. So they won't necessarily, they can actually will count with the following year of data. So we do have, so as far as like the actual numbers, I can get you numbers if that's what we're kind of curious about how many of our students throughout the district would qualify as a fifth-year senior, but we can definitely get that information for you.
Yeah, only because it was new information to me.
Yeah.
And.
Yeah, we can definitely get that data for you.
Yeah, I'd be curious. Thank you.
No worries.
I have a really long, involved question for you now that take at least 20 minutes to answer. No, I thank you very, very much. I am actually interested in some information about how many of our members of the public weighed in and gave their input here, because I know we're required to collect it. But I already know the answer, and everybody can look it up. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you and your work on this, and we get to vote on this next month. Thank you.
Next week.
Oh, God, next week, sorry, next meeting, there it is. Am I on 9.1 now? Yes? 9.1 is a public hearing and approval of the 2024-2025 annual service plan and annual budget plan for the special education local plan area, the SELPA. Mr. Mizell. I do need to open the public hearing too, but you do you first.
All right, I'm going to invite Dr. Stacy McGrath-Smith to the dais here to deliver her report. Thank you.
Thank you.
In the meantime, I'm going to open the public
do it.
hearing first. All right, public hearing is open at 10:03.
No messages.
All right, then I'm going to close the public hearing at 10:03. Now it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President O'Connor-Ratliff. The California Department of Education requires that each special education local plan area, or SELPA, develop a service and budget plan component to the local plan annually and a governance and administration plan every 3 years. As a single district SELPA, the Poway Unified Annual Service Plan describes the full continuum of services that ensure access to appropriate instruction and services for all students with disabilities from birth to 22 years of age, including children with low incidence disabilities. The annual budget plan provides an overview of anticipated special education revenue and expenditures for the 24-25 school year. The governance and administration plan describes the structure of the governance and administration of the SELPA for 2024 through 2027. The Community Advisory Committee has had the opportunity to review, provide input, and subsequently approve all sections of the SELPA local plan on May 20th. All sections of the local plan have been provided to the Board of Education and have been available to the public on the district website. It is necessary that the board approve after public hearing annual service plan, the annual budget plan, and the governance and administration plan to be incorporated in the Poway Unified School District's local plan for special education to subsequently be approved by the San Diego County of Education and uploaded to the California Department of Education.
Thank you. Questions? No? All right, it's a report with a lot of charts and code numbers that you have to look up and find out what they mean. It's a fun one.
It is.
Love looking through it. It's amazing. Thank you for your work. And if there are no questions, we do need to take a vote on this to approve it. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Dr. Seitzman. Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Second by Ms. Couvrette. All in favor, and I'll start down on the end with our student board member. Thank you. Everybody else? Aye. That's 6-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
9.2 is a public hearing and approval of the 2024-2027 Transition Partnership Program Agreement with the California Department of Education. Mr. Mizell, I've got a public hearing again, but I'll let you introduce.
So from one rock star special education director to the next, here comes Director Tiffany King. It's all yours.
No, I'm going to take it first, and we're going to open this public hearing again at 10:06.
No comments.
We're going to close it at 10:06. Take it away.
All right. Good evening, Madam President, board members, cabinet, and interim superintendent Mizell. Along with two of our vocational specialists, Ms. Felicia Velte and Cynthia Crawford, thank you for staying. It is a pleasure to highlight a program that has evolved significantly over the past 33 years and continues to have an increasing positive impact on our students with disabilities as they plan for post-secondary goals. The Transition Partnership Program is a branch of the California Department of Rehabilitation. Every state has a vocational rehabilitation agency, and Poway Unified has been lucky to partner with our local branch of California's vocational rehabilitation agency, the Department of Rehabilitation. We have engaged in a contract with TPP and Department of Rehabilitation every year since 1991. Department of Rehabilitation offers support and services for individuals with disabilities to receive training, guidance, and services to reach their ultimate vocational goals. This may include direct pathways to colleges and universities, vocational and technical trade schools, or immediate job placements right out of high school. The contract truly embodies our district's mission statement of preparing every student to thrive in college, career, and life. Our Transition Partnership Program provides a bridge to services needed for our students to continue their journey after graduation or aging out of Poway Unified. Next slide. Over the years, the number of services we have been able to provide to students through our TVP contract has grown. Our students now benefit from 5 services from our vocational specialists, including job exploration counseling, workplace readiness training, work-based learning, self-advocacy, and counseling on post-secondary education. I'm constantly impressed with the implementation practices of our 4 vocational specialists, and I've observed them all providing these services individually via small group instruction and in whole class lessons. 2 of our comprehensive high school sites have also integrated a job skills class into their master schedule, and our vocational specialists regularly push into these classes to provide lessons as well. The innovative and creative mindsets of our vocational specialists led us to a rare exemplary program status during our last program review audit, and I'm so proud of the team and their drive to continuously improve. Next slide. Our contract with Department of Rehabilitation runs in 3-year increments. Our 21 to 24 contract is coming to an end, and we are excited to implement these extremely beneficial services for another 3 years. Each year, we set goals for the unduplicated number of students served through each service. Each vocational specialist provides the services at the high school where they are assigned. As you can see by this year's data, we are continuously willing to serve and always bypassing our goals. Unless Department of Rehabilitation tells us to stop serving students, we are always eager to add to our caseloads, as shown in our reported outcomes each year. The last 3-year contract was first, obviously 31 years ago, where we have included work experience, and we now are able to place students in jobs, and they can work up to 300 hours and get paid, and the district's reimbursed for funding the payment. We have worked over 2,900 hours with all of our students this year, all reimbursed by the Department of Rehabilitation. Next slide, please. As mentioned, our direct services with students are provided in a variety of ways. These creative and innovative implementation strategies have not only been recognized by the program auditors, but have been requested as models to other growing programs to observe as well. Our TPP contract through Department of Rehabilitation not only funds the staff serving these students, but we also have been able to fund vocational opportunities for our students, such as Junior Achievements Finance Park, internships at Blue Apple Ranch, BASES program work experiences in the extensive support class at Chaparral Elementary School, our newest initiative, the Kitchen Table, as well as a new culinary, business, and hospitality-focused component in our Poway High BASES program, allowing us to provide an opportunity for some of our most impacted students in out-of-state residential treatment centers to return to a comprehensive site within the district. We would not be able to provide these unique experiences without our partnership and collaboration with TPP. Next slide. As expected, our team is eager to serve more students than ever with our new contract through 2027, with your approval. We would like to double the number of students served, and we also applied for and were just awarded an additional $40,000 per year via a reallotment augmentation application, which will provide an opportunity for increased supplies, services, and staffing to serve these additional students. In true Poway Unified fashion, we are also eager to maintain and surpass our current exemplary status and show the state that we are always committed to providing an exceptional student experience that prepares our students for their post-secondary goals. Although our work with students concludes when they graduate or age out of our district, our ultimate goal is to provide supports and services that they are able to maintain well past their time in our district. We always love hearing from our students who have benefited from TPP and how the program has had a lasting impact on their lives. Next slide.
My name is Kevlin, and I am a 2020 graduate of Poway High School, and I was a participant in the Transition Partnership Program. I wanted to share my experiences with TPP and what the program has done for me. While a senior at Poway High School, I worked with my TPP case manager, Ms. Velty, to prepare myself for being job ready and transitioning out of high school. The TPP program taught me the essentials to prepare for the world of work, and then helped me to develop a resume. Ms. Velty then gave me interview tips and practice interview sessions. With all her help, I landed the job that I wanted, and I am still currently working at that job. TPP supported me and the other students by teaching us to be an advocate for our needs, which was important during high school, in our jobs, and for us to becoming adults. One thing that was an eye-opener and extremely helpful to me was the field trip to Finance Park, which focused on financial literacy. This field trip gave us the opportunity to choose a job we would love to do in the future, and then we went through a simulation on what life would look like with that job in a life scenario, including whether you were married or you had kids. We learned about health insurance, saving, buying a car, either owning or renting a home, and many other aspects of financial literacy. Learning about finances really helped me understand the value of the dollar and the importance of budgeting. Through TPP, I had the support of my TPP case manager to help me explore my interests and where I wanted to be in life after high school. I was able to learn all the life skills basics that are always taught in classes in high school. If you want or need support for learning about self-advocacy, work readiness, or exploring possible future careers, definitely sign up for TPP.
All right, we're so appreciative of you taking the time to listen to the positive impacts TPP has had on our students with disabilities, and we're excited to return in the future to share the amazing benefits the program will have on our current and future 16 to 22-year-olds.
Thank you so much, Director King. Fantastic. Any questions for her?
I just want to say thank you to you and your staff, especially to Ms. Valetti, who is just helped one of my students graduate from the program and roll into, help her sign up for the DOR. She was very excited because she'll be going to college in a couple months. So, and she now is her own advocate, and she's aware of that. So, thank you for that, because she definitely did not advocate for herself at all without your help. And hopefully you can fix the other one. One more year. So, but in all seriousness, thank you for all that you do.
Very exciting to hear about the program expanding too, and the extra dollar number, and how many more students we can help through that many more hours of work experience. Thank you so much again.
Of course.
All right, we do need a motion to approve this fiscal impact budget.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Pulaski. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Seitzma. I'll start down at the end. All in favor? All right, that's her. That's everybody. All right, aye, that's 6-0. Thank you. Thank you. We're clapping. We're getting closer. I know. 11.1 is the approval of regular board meeting dates for calendar year 2025. This is the second reading. Mr. Mizell, you got something to say about this one?
At
That's
the-
your item.
At the May 9th board meeting, we presented the proposed dates for calendar year 2025 as a first reading. Tonight, we're bringing these dates back for board approval.
Comments, questions, motion?
Motion to approve?
Thank you, Dr. Patel. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Couvret. All in favor, everybody votes. Aye. All right, that looks unanimous, 6-0. Thank you. 12.0. All right, I'm just going to say right now, as we walk into board member reports here, we have a mandatory hard stop at 10:30 unless we allow ourselves to go longer. I'm going to vote no on that, so get it done. Let's go, Ms. Trivedi.
I was planning to do all the goodbye, thank you, appreciation stuff next meeting, but maybe I'll have to trickle some of that in right now, or maybe just leave it for next meeting.
You get a pass. You can talk as long as you want. The rest of us, no excuses.
But as you can imagine, the last month has been busy with senior end-of-the-year activities, including things like prom and various banquets, but here are a few of my favorites. One of my favorite high school traditions is our mini girls football season that happens at the end of the year, formerly known as Powder Puff. But essentially our fall football seniors coach our freshmen, sophomore, junior, and senior girls to play in the battle of the classes. And this year we expanded that to even have games between the schools. So we had a game between Mount Carmel and Westview on May 31st, which Westview won, of course, but that's a different conversation. And another favorite event of mine was today, this afternoon, the senior clap out, where our elementary school, our seniors go back to their elementary schools and they walk around the school in their caps and gowns as the elementary school students clap and give them high fives. And I think this afternoon was when it finally hit me that I was 12 years past kindergarten, especially when we were high-fiving the students, and I thought I was pretty short, but even after bending down, I couldn't high-five a lot of them, and so that was pretty telling. But I'm so grateful to have seen some of my teachers who are still there, still teaching in the same grades, the same classrooms, and I'm just so grateful to their dedication, and the fact that they're still there shows that they're not just teaching my class or the class after it, but they're teaching generations of students, and that means so much. And yesterday was my last day, and I was surprised to find that I was actually most sad to leave the class that I joined just for the second semester of my senior year, journalism. And I think I didn't realize just how important our publications like Yearbook and newspaper are to our school communities. They raise awareness, they spark interests, and they provide for some entertainment. And a lot of our newspaper seniors are actually going to go on to study literary journalism and continue making the impact that they've already made in our district. And so I think it's important to note that although we have CTE courses for things like broadcast journalism, there's still not an equivalent for things like literary journalism. And especially because of financial constraints, a lot of our high school newspapers have had to stop printing physical newspapers, which is a really important experience for a lot of our students. So I hope we can continue to find ways to support our publications in the coming years. But yeah, I also just want to give a shout out to all of our high school seniors who are graduating on Thursday. I'm genuinely so impressed by all of our seniors and what's to come for them. I think we have congressional appointments to Naval and Air Force academies with full scholarships, which are incredibly rare. I believe Congress members only get to appoint 2 students per year. So the fact that those are coming from our district is really incredible. We have seniors taking gap years to go travel the world, seniors pursuing careers in education to come back and teach in our district again, woot woot. And we have so many incredible seniors going to really cool colleges. One of our high school ASBs posted a video with all the colleges our school seniors are going to, and strangers on the internet commented saying that, is this a private feeder school? Because we just had so many amazing universities. And I think that's a testament to just how world-class, top-tier our public education is. And although there are always things we can improve, I think the fact that we can provide resources to allow students to achieve whatever goals they have, whether it's, going out into the workforce or attending a four-year university, I think that's really, really amazing. And I think as a student board member, I speak for a lot of students when I say that we're eternally grateful to have been students at Poway Unified. And so I'm taking a note from Miss Michelle O'Connor Ratcliffe and ending with a quote today. But as one of my favorite singers, Macklemore, wrote in a song lyric, "I heard you die twice, once when they bury you in the grave, and the second time is the last time somebody mentions your name. So when I leave here on this earth, did I take more than I gave? Did I look out for other people, or did I do it all for fame?" And so I think during this end of the year season, there's a lot of focus on accomplishments, whether they're social, academic, or athletic. But I hope that as we're all graduating or promoting, we can focus on how we are giving more than we are taking, and how we are looking out for others, because that's what's permanent. Accomplishments are all temporary. And so I hope that wherever we're going in the future, we can take the spirit and the values of kindness and community service that PUSD has given us with us wherever we go. Thank you.
And this is why it's difficult to sit next to Nirja. For no other reason than her eloquence. I really respect you for that. Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and of course, happy last week of school. As I shared the last time we met, we are certainly in celebration mode. As a trustee, that means attending a lot of events on behalf of the district. In just the past few weeks since we last met, I celebrated with the CAC on their recognition event for standout support staff, visited school sites to meet with inclusive practices site teams on banner presentations, Classroom for the Future Awards Night, where a few of our AVID students, our exploration program, and Studio 701 were all celebrated. And I joined all of our board members at the PTA Palomar Council Awards Breakfast, where I was surprised to be included in the lineup of volunteers being presented with awards. I didn't know that was coming. And finally, most recently, the San Diego and Imperial Counties honoring our own event, which is called Evening of the Stars, where it was my last of 4 years, serving as hostess in my role as president of the San Diego County School Boards Association. And this is just to name a few of what's been going on across the district. Additionally, as trustee, I attended the district-wide Counselors Showcase event, where we had a chance to learn more about the progress using the RAMP process, which is an acronym within an acronym, I learned, and I'm not going to repeat the acronyms. Also heard about certain issues and goals and wishes from our counselors. I also attended the 30-year birthday celebration at Park Village Elementary School, where 4 of the past principals joined our current principal, alumni, retired teachers, and parents in celebrating the positive culture that has endured at PVES over the past few decades. As a trustee, I have received over 1,000 emails this past few weeks. That's about 100 times more than I typically do from our constituents. For those that were directly directed to me where I wasn't the CC on, I've done my best to provide meaningful responses where possible. We are facing some of the most serious budget challenges that we've ever experienced this year since my time on the board, and many of these are exacerbated by the difficult budget situation we're in as a direct result of the state budget shortfalls. There are programs and initiatives that were funded with one-time money that we will no longer be able to have, and those programs will now be eliminated or need to be resourced with different funding mechanisms. Cutting back on those obvious areas will not be enough to bridge the gaps we face next year and the year after and the year after that. And while I know our community is fairly resilient and resourceful, I want to reassure community members that we all are, working hard to find ways to limit direct impacts on our students. And we will need to rely on a strong community to work together with district staff and leaders to support our students' well-being and learning. That is the most important thing we can do, is supporting our students. And I'm so deeply appreciative of this amazing community that continues to engage with thoughtful and helpful insights. And with that, I'm at the end of my report, and I'll see you back here next week.
Good evening. So my schedule's been just as busy. I attended the CAC meeting as well as their Excellence Award this month. And one of the things that I talked to the CAC members about, because as they had 436 nominations and it was 240 people, was looking to the future for next year. As the district has changed into inclusive practices, we talked about them changing possibly the awards. They needed to grow as well as the district needs to grow into having cohorts and multiple teachers and CTE teachers, because we're having co-taught teachers and we're having one-on-ones, and so possibly having different nomination sections for the Excellence Awards. So hopefully we're going to see that come to fruition next year. I also met with a couple parents and met at RB High for inclusive practices. RB High wasn't recognized as one of the inclusive practices schools this year, but there's a lot to RB High that is so much more inclusive than they're given credit for. And I want to give you a breakdown of why. It's not about the grades with what they do. The principal, Hans Becker, goes through very thoughtfully, and he does things like when they did the event Broncocella, he made sure there was a quiet area and a laser tag area for kids that don't want to go into somewhere that's loud. We talked about having earbuds at events for all the kids, that not just inside, because other kids were buying boxes of earbuds and bringing them in for the kids to plug their ears with. He makes sure there's always someone at prom to have, there was a quiet disco room so the kids could go inside, as the young lady said this afternoon, or it was this afternoon when we started, that there was a quiet room that the kids could go into, and it did have a music disco ball going, and there was a game room for board games. There's always something like that happening. When they went on their Disney trip for the seniors event, they made sure that, even though that's not covered, like we learned last month at the board meeting for field trips, he made sure that their school paid for the one-on-ones to go for kids that needed a special needs one-on-one. It wasn't necessarily their one-on-one, but somebody was going to go for every one of those kids that needed someone to help them. So it's things like that that makes me feel like the district really is moving in the way of inclusive practices, and it's just a really good feeling, and it's something I wanted to end on this month.
I'm going to shorten mine down to 3 items. First off, the CTE Expo seems like it was forever ago, but I just want to give everyone who participated in that just a huge congratulations. The projects were amazing. The kids were engaging and taught me so many cool things. We really saw what practical experience and theoretical experience together can really make magic happen. So thank you to the teachers, thank you to the parent supports. I know there's a lot of volunteers in that, and thank you to the students for making that a wonderful night. Second was the Memorial Day celebration at Webb Park. RB High School's choir just sang some beautiful songs. I got to be Mike Girl from the floor. It was fantastic. Our bugle fella from the band there was just amazing. And it's really nice to mark Memorial Day remembering the fallen. And I really am very happy that we were able to partner with RBHS to make that such a special morning. And then finally, the Poway Palomar Middle College graduation, first ever, super special event. It really showed those were kids that we could very have well lost, and they may have dropped out, and they found a home, they found success, they got in the right road, and now they're going to have really bright futures. And it's really cool, and we can help kids find their people and see that success. So I'm going to end my note on congratulations to all the promotions and celebrations on Thursday, well, I guess starting tomorrow, and I'm hopefully see a lot of people there. Thank you.
I feel like I attended 900 events this past month, but I'm only going to highlight two. The district's first elementary spelling bee went 30 rounds before we had a winner. And sometime in the early 20s rounds, to speed things up, they went to lists that the students had never seen before, and it still went 10 more rounds. It was amazing and exhausting. We felt like we were never going to get out of there, but just incredible spellers. Hopefully this will be an annual thing. And second, I really enjoyed the opportunity to participate in the Midland Elementary Career Fair. All the students participated. They had shifts of rotating through, and they coordinated it like a scavenger hunt. And they had all kinds of parents and community members out there. With the kids definitely gravitated towards science type things. They wanted tangibles that they could touch and manipulate. But the coordinator, a shout out to Kelly Ames, she did a fantastic job of putting this together for your TK through your fifth graders, and making it fun. Like, you have to go find the FBI agent, you have to go find the professional soccer player, and she already had scripted questions for them. So it was a lot of fun, and I'm honored that I was asked to participate in it. And just, I want to wish all of our students this week and their families congratulations on reaching these major milestones. All of our kiddos promoting elementary, middle school, and a special congratulations to our graduating class of 2024 seniors. Enjoy your last couple of days. And I'll see you next week.
And given that we will see you next week, I'm going to save my entire report for next week and just go twice as long. But I do feel strongly I wanted to speak to what many of our speakers during public comment, their concerns over the JEDI committee. So I will save that for next week. But I did prepare some data with the help of Ms. Peterson's department. I really do want to share that, so I'll share that next week during my board report. But just so I don't disappoint Ms. Trivedi, do something that makes someone happy. Then go do something that makes you happy, and maybe you'll find they're the same thing. Have a great summer.
I'll save my shout outs for maybe next time we meet, because I have quite a few. So I would encourage you guys to take a look at 12.2. You can read all about it. I've lost the room. How about that? Peace out.
And with that, the next regularly scheduled board meeting will be held Thursday, June 13th at 6 p.m. right here. See you then.